How lucky are you guys? Me recording 2.5 videos in a single night. I mean, I probably won't upload them all at the same time, so I guess it doesn't actually help you at all. Whatever. This is my third game from the King of the Hill event with my Centaur, Chief, and Monster list. I came up against vampires, against a player that I played, what was it? Patio Slaughter, I think is the name. I always think of it as Starkies, but I think it's called Patio Slaughter. It's on my channel somewhere. The second game when I took my Seven Sins Warriors list, basically, which was, I think, like Justin's third game playing ninth. He's now got more experience under his belt. I think he's happier with his list. And yeah, he's improved quite a bit. So this was going to be an interesting one. He was really interested to see sort of like, I hope I give you a better challenge than last time. And I was sort of sitting there going like, I think I'm going to run away from you basically the entire game because I can't fight some of your things. So basically what he had, he's got a vampire count who's his general with True Thirst. That'll go in Beauregard, 26 Halberd Beauregard along with the Court of the Damned. He has got vampire courtier that will sit in 40 ghouls. He's got 37 zombies, 2 bat swarms, 4 vampire knights, and a Barkalak. So essentially, he's got a big blocky list, which theoretically, I mean, my list sort of can go both ways with this, right? Because he doesn't have much by way of ranged output. Like, he's got occultism, but it's not that terrifying because I can control the range quite well. Essentially, looking at this, I'm going, it's going to be very hard for me to deal with those Beauregard. It's going to be very hard for me to deal with those ghouls. Everything else, not quite so tough. The Vampire Knights, obviously, and the Barkalak are quite good, but I have enough threats that I should be able to win the movement game and take off those support pieces. So that was sort of the name of the game. It was look for opportunities on the big blocks, take out the support stuff, and because it was King of the Hill, probably draw objective because there's no way that I can get the Beauregard off an objective, basically. Where are we? Okay. So this is me after first turn. So the Giants are sitting outside of range of, outside of line of sight of his zombies, and his Vampire Knights. I've got 2 Centaur Chiefs sort of zoning there. I think they're out of range of his Vampire Knights to charge. I've chaffed his Beauregard turn 1 with my dogs. And what I'm essentially doing there is it's not so much that I needed to chaff them now, as it's keeping him in a particular space, giving me more control over the board. Because as you can see, it allowed me to, well, maybe it didn't allow me to come up so aggressively, but it meant that he'd be pinned in a certain area. I would have, I'm basically controlling, if he's tucked in this little corner, I've got like 80% of the board that is sort of mine. And it also just gives him an opportunity to maybe make some mistakes. Maybe charge them and overrun when he shouldn't, give me a flank or something. That's basically all I was doing there, was going like, well, might as well send him up now, take the space, and give you a chance to make mistakes. Which is something that I think there's a time for, and it's not necessarily just like, this guy's less experienced at ninth, so he's going to screw up some things, so I'm going to play for him making mistakes. I think even against better players, when there's no real downside and you're like, I can make this a bit messy, I think there's often times where that's just a good idea, where you're like, well, I don't need my chaff later. I don't think I'm going to need my chaff particularly later. Why don't I just force you to make a decision? Because the more decisions I force you to make, the more likely it is that you're going to make a mistake with one of them. And I don't know how it is on the top tables ETC or anything, but against the best players in Australia, they make mistakes. They do things that is like, they make decisions that are just wrong because you're under time pressure. Maybe you're underestimating some of your opponent's units. Any of those things, they will make mistakes. And if you give them enough opportunities to make decisions, some of those decisions will be maybe not like awful, but will give you openings. So that's sort of the idea that I was doing here, where I was just like, this is an opportunity for something good to happen. If it doesn't happen, that's fine. I'm still happy with the result of just chaffing you turn 1. If it does happen, great. I've given myself an opportunity. The other sort of idea there is if I keep him occupied up here while I surround him, it might make it more difficult, or like more reluctant to sort of just push for the field objective, because that's the king of the hill that he was going for. I was going for the hill over here. So I could sort of maybe, like again, he might be like, I don't want to be charged by a giant, a Jabberwock, and 2 Centaur chiefs later, so I need to sort of stay back here and protect myself a bit. And if I can occupy him for 6 turns with something like that, it means that he won't get to the objective, which is great. So overall, that's sort of my plan that's happening right here. These guys are just sort of zoning out the Varkalak over here. I danced my Centaurs over through. They couldn't get around, so I was just sort of like, I'll look at a few things, see what happens. That's basically it. All 3 of my games I've gone first. It's probably a decent advantage with all these Vanguard. Okay, so this is, I danced one of my Centaurs further up. I charged both of my giants into his zombie block. Essentially what I did was, this giant was underhanging the zombies, which meant that the Vampire Knights were in the front, but because I was underhanging, he couldn't engage me at all, so he couldn't come around and clip my corner or anything, because it was like inside the zombies. There's some Centaurs dancing around in the back, avoiding a Varkalak. And otherwise, I'm just sort of, keeping this sort of concave of, like, if you come up, I could put you in a tough position. Those zombies are going to pop in his turn as well. So, what happens next, basically? I popped these guys. These guys turned around to face something, maybe. Yeah, they went around to where my Centaurs were sort of looking at the rear of his Barrowguard. And essentially, in my turn, I charged the rear with my Aaghor's Chief. He failed that. I think it was like a 9 or a 10 he needed. But I did get a big combo charge on his ghouls. So, 2 giants in the flank, 2 Jabberwocks in the front, Centaur Chief in the front, Centaur Chief in the rear. Centaur Chief in the rear is also significant because he's giving off -1 agility. It means that the ghouls are striking after the giants and the Jabberwock, whereas before they'd be simultaneous. I don't know if it really matters with the amount of damage I'm going to be putting in here, but every little bit counts. Funnily enough, in the challenge, my 2-up... No, actually, I put the guy in the rear into the challenge and killed his Vampire Courtier just outright. And then with all these attacks, all these Thunder Stomps, I don't think I used the Breath Weapons, but I popped the ghouls in a round, basically. Which was sort of the opportunity that I was looking for. I was like, I want to put myself in a position where if things go right, I get to gang up on one of these big blocks. The ghouls are easier than the Barrowguard because, well, I mean, I guess not really. It's just that the character in the Barrowguard is scarier, and the Barrowguard themselves are scarier to me. But yeah, that's that. They popped. I had a few things happen over here, like so the Jabberwock overran into the Knight, but then he's going to be charged by the Varkalak. The Varkalak will kill it. But then I'll get the Knights, because I think I charged my Centaur and my Jabberwock into them, while the Varkalak fought my Centaur Chief for a few turns. My ambushes are all coming on here, basically just to take the objective. I was silly here, I didn't think about it, and I positioned my giant within 6 inches of my chaff, so when my chaff died, my giant fled. Not that I think it mattered all that much, because I wasn't going to send a giant in on his own, but... okay. So essentially, yeah, that's all that happens over here. Over a few rounds, and I think I got supported eventually, I killed the Varkalak. I killed the Vampire Knights over a couple of rounds. And down here, I had... So this is the first wave. Essentially, what I had was... Alright. So I basically got the game. I've got 1 Jabberwock, 3 giants, all of my Centaur chiefs alive, all of my scoring units alive. So I've lost the dogs who are like 100. Another dog is 200. 515, I think, because Jabberwock thinks 315. So no, it's 280. So yeah, like 480 points, and I've killed basically every. Oh, I've also lost a Centaur chief by the looks of it. I don't know when that happened. Maybe to the Varkalak, maybe to the. I don't know. So essentially, like 700, 800 points I've lost basically. I've killed everything in his army except for the Barricade and the Coven Throne. And the Lord, obviously, in there. So if we go back here, I've lost, what was it, 800 points-ish? Well, he's still got 467, 757 plus 800. So like 1600 is what he's got left. So I've got like 2,000 points. I'm up like 1,200 points. What does that get me? 1,200 points, I think, is like a 14.6 or a 15.5 in this smaller point gap. I think roughly that. Okay. Basically, just decided, look, it's more interesting, and I find out more if I send things into these Barrier Gardens so we can deal with. So I sent a giant in who didn't have to touch the Lord because the Lord had a Razortusk that was just touching him, which meant the other giant could also not touch the Lord. My giant in the front to like 6 Barrier Guard attack and the Coven Throne took like 6 wounds, 5 or 6 wounds. My giant to the flank took 2 maybe, but there wasn't many attacks on him, and the Razortusk died. I won the combat and I killed a whole bunch. And basically, next turn I died. Maybe, yeah, I just died next turn. This giant did some more damage, but essentially by the end of it, I was like, alright, I just lost 700 points, 650 points. You've still got Barrier Guard alive, you're still going to get this objective. If I send the rest of my stuff in, I can probably kill the Barrier Guard. Is that a good trade? Don't know. But at the moment, I'm getting no points because you're going to raise them back. I guess I could probably stop the raise, but getting like 250 points isn't that much. Or I can send all my stuff in, see if I can pop you, and if I kill all the Barrier Guard, which I should, you don't get the objective, I win it. Probably an okay trade-off. So then I end up having to deal with the Varkalak. I send in my Jabberwock, I send in my Giant, I send in... I've got everything in, basically. Maybe the Giant didn't get to turn around in time. But anyway, I sent everything that I could in. I end up killing all of the Barrier Guard. My General dies to his General. My Jabberwock dies. And essentially, I've sacrificed, like... I think one of my Giants lived. I don't know. No, I think I lost... No, yeah, I'm pretty sure I lost him too. So I'm pretty sure I've lost all 3 Giants, which is 810, plus a Jabberwock, which is 1,090, plus a Razortusk, which is 1,190, plus a Centaur Chief, which is 315, so 1,600, plus my General, which is like 500. So I've lost like 2,100 points, and out of that I gained 500. So it was... I lost 1,600 points fighting these Barrier Guard and got them off the objective. If I was right before and it was a 14 or a 16, if I didn't fight him, means that essentially I lost like 4 points, 3 or 4 points, because the end result was a 12-8 to Justin on points, but because I won the objective, it was an 11-9 to me. So essentially, this is sort of like a microcosm, in my opinion, of what I don't like about the list. Well, one of the things I don't like about the list. There's too many things that it can't deal with, in my opinion. So, it's not very good at dealing with good characters. Because my Giants are AP 0 and they're Giants, so they're not that amazing. Jabberwocks are worse than Giants. And the Centaur Chiefs are all middling combat heroes. So it's like, Centaur Chiefs are good, but they're not going to take out your Iron Orc Warlords, not going to take out your KOE Lords, not going to take out your Chosen Lords. You're going to avoid them. You also really struggle against strong blocks like the Barricade here. I mean, particularly like if that was like a Merc-Vet block or like a poison Merc-Vets, I'd just be sitting there going, I can't fight you, and you're killing like a monster a turn with your pistols. If I couldn't stomp them, for instance, it'd be like, well, I've got no answers for dealing with you. And it just felt like across my 3 games, less so against Jamie, but he's got a very unconventional list too. But across my 3 games, or across the 2 ones that were more normal, there were too many things on the board where I went, I can't fight that no matter what I do. And the Barricade were kind of one of those, because like, I mean, if I'd gotten them in a situation like I could with the Ghouls, I guess that's good. But that sort of situation is very hard to manufacture. And I got quite lucky with how all happened this game. Also, I'm quite vulnerable to shooting with the list because I just bleed points. You have some decent shooting. You have 20 crossbows. It's like, cool, you might kill a Jabberwock. You might kill a Centaur. I'm going to bleed points getting into you, and then if you've got a couple of decent... if you've got a steam tank, I can't approach that entire flank, basically. So, I think there's some value in the list, in the idea. Maybe Gore-Tax would be better, but Gore-Tax pretty swingy when the only thing that your opponent wants to kill at range. So, I don't know. I quite liked the Centaur Chiefs, but it was just a sort of realization of their limitations that means that maybe... because individually I think they're great. Individually, I think this Obscuring Fog guy, who's high agility, high strength on the charge, great for combo charges because it's only his unit that doesn't benefit from the not receiving the +1 agility on the charge. So he goes in and he can give you -1 agility, while all of the rest of my units just deal with it as normal. So effectively, if I combo charged him with the unit of Minotaurs, if you're agility 5, you go down to 4, the Minotaurs go from 3 up to 4, all of a sudden Minotaurs are striking at the same time as your non-elite elves. Or even some, like I think Judicators are only agility 5. So, like, individual pieces, I think they're very good. And I would say that for all of them. The General's too many points. The General being worth 500 points when he's only got Destiny's Call and 3 wounds. He needs either a unit to sit in, or he's not really worth it. The model itself is good, but having to make it the General isn't a good idea. But so individually, all of them are actually very good for around about 300 points, and they're really useful. But building a list around them is a little bit more difficult. I would probably say there's a good chance that if I dropped 2 Giants and 1 Jabberwock and had 2 blocks of Centaurs instead, it probably ends up being a bit better because then those blocks can maybe actually fight things. But then you probably want some magic as well to go with them. So I don't know. I find it difficult to, despite how much I like the individual elements in this list, Jabberwocks, the Uprooted Tree Giants, and the Centaurs, I find it difficult to bring them together in a list that works cohesively. And I'm not sure if these elements should work together. Maybe I should be... I mean, I like the Giants with my Chariot Star, for instance. So that's a list that I think they work in. I think the Centaur Chiefs would... I mean, I just like that list, I guess. Because the Centaur Chiefs would work well there, but I can't afford them in character points. The Jabberwocks are pretty good with it as well. But I guess that's a list that when you sprinkle in... It doesn't really matter what those 2 additional single models are. Like, you've got your 2 Gore-Tax, you've got your Chariot Star. You sprinkle in a couple more... single models, those single models are going to be valuable, but building a base around any of these single models, I think the most reasonable plan would be if I kept 2 of the Centaur Chiefs, so probably the Obscuring Fog guy and the 2-up, 2-up, 5-up, or the, depending on if I have a unit that he can sometimes sit in, the Aaghor's guy is also pretty good. Toughness 6 4-up regen, just sometimes needs to be protected from like pyro and other things. Like, I mean, even bows where it's like, well, you don't have an armor save, so you're in a bit of trouble sometimes. Really, any of them. In fact, I think they're valuable, but you would need less focus on... Maybe not less focus on... Maybe MSU might still work, but I don't know if Beast Herds do MSU very well. There is single models well, but MSU, because their leadership's so shaky, and Primal Fury's tied to leadership as well, maybe not so great. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe more blocky list where you just add a couple of those to give you a fast element that can hide behind a lot of things, that can cause a lot of problems with vanguarding into annoying areas. That could work, but blocky lists I sort of struggle with. Because there's a lot of things that Beast Herd blocks just lose to. So, particularly with new Druidism. Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, I guess the long and the short of it is that I didn't like this list very much, but I did like a lot of the elements in it. So, there's some kind of potential here, but I'm not sure what the potential is. Like, I'd need to figure out... I don't know. Whatever it is, there's some cool things here, and I'm yet to turn it into a list that I'm as happy with as I am with my chariot stuff. End result for the tournament was pretty middling, because 11, 12, 5 is 28. I was definitely below halfway. I was around about there, though. It's like there was 18 people, I might have been 10th. So, admit, like, honestly, not how I would have liked to be placed in the end. I would have wanted to be, I mean, obviously I would have wanted to be higher. I would have expected to be higher, basically, just based on the fact that I play so much damn 9th Age. Like, weight of experience of the amount of games I've played when everyone wasn't playing during COVID, and just in general, I kind of expect to do quite well. But didn't this tournament, and I don't think I played the list terrifically, but it was interesting and it was a fun time. So I doubt you're going to see this kind of archetype back. I'm not sure what I'm going to be running. It's a little bit up in the air at the moment because I'm not... Like, if I was running the Chariot Star, Druidism is still fine. Unless there's a lot of flaming, in which case I don't think it works anymore. But in that case, I don't know if you need Druidism with the Chariot Star. You could just go Shamanism. Maybe even Evoc would work. You're just going to... Like, essentially, if you're taking Druidism, you can skimp a little bit on the protections on your characters. If you're taking Evoc, you can skimp a little bit on the output because you've got such good combat buffs. So there's a few things to fiddle around with like that list. I also got a lot of other armies that I'd like to play as well. So I don't know what we'll see. There is a tournament coming up in January. It's, I mean, I guess basically a month away now, which is CanCon. So that will be fun. And I got a lot of list writing to do in the interim. Anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed all these reports. And if you got anything, I mean, yeah, comment if you've got something interesting to say, I guess. Or if you're tricky and you just need to comment 6 times in every video just to make sure that I know that you're there. It's okay, I know you're there. Yeah, I will catch you on the next one. Thanks, guys.